I remember a quote from a tweet from Timothy Keller a long time back. He was saying, if you're a Christian and you're a pilot, make sure you land the plane first. It's important or necessary that we are witnesses and we share the evangelism, but your primary task is that you are faithful to your vocation or the place where God has placed you. And it is very natural that we often disconnect spiritual life from secular life. And there is a way, or we know why we differentiate like that. But what has happened is we often disconnect our spiritual life from our workplace. So we say, oh, that is my work, and my spiritual life is on a weekend. I come to some church and do everything in church. My secular work is a Sunday thing. But when we look at the passages, how Paul is giving instruction here, this is not just in Timothy. We can see that in Colossians. We can see that in Ephesians. There's always, it's always connected how you behave, how you work in your workplace and in whatever context you are in. And first, I just want to touch upon, because it says slaves or bond servants, we may be thinking about, there's a lot of discussion on, okay, is Bible pro-slavery, or is it supporting, is it condemning, is it not condoning it? That's not our subject today, but just a couple of points that I want to just talk about when in the context of what Paul is writing about. So when he talks about bond servants, yes, slavery was very common in the Roman rule in that empire. So they were voluntarily escaping from poverty or to pay off debt. They sell themselves as slaves because they don't have a way to live. They will say, I will serve you. So in return they get money, and that's how they live. But there are also involuntary slavery at that time. It was by birth or being captured in a battle or a judicial sentence. As part of that, they became slavery as well. It is very different from how we are looking at slavery in terms of race and color and all those things. That's not how they did it. But they were good. They were people who were benefited through slavery. Like, they could actually be educated. They could become doctors and have good education in the society in one case. In the other case, they were also abused. So that's what happened in the Roman Empire. Normally, it was a 7-year contract. Once the contract is done, they would have the ability they will be given the wages and they will be freed. If you worked in the household of Caesar, your contract would be for 14 years. That was a system at that time. Now, we need to understand that Bible is different, and all the commands in the Bible and the commandments that was done in the Bible was counter-cultural at that point. For example, when God said, I'll create you in my image, male and female, God was talking about equality and dignity of human beings. And this was something new. In ancient world, slavery existed and it was assumed everywhere. When the account of creation, as it was said in the Bible, when it said, you're created in my own image, that was something new. So when we say that we are created in His image, we are actually saying that everyone, no matter how poor or powerless, we are made in God's image. There is dignity for every human being who is born in this world. We are given equal value to every human being. And this was not common in the Near East at that time. I was reading that in the ancient Near East, being made in the image of a deity was generally reserved only for those in royal authority. Only for a specific group, they were given, you're created in our image. The other people were not considered equally. But Bible comes out with this creation account and says everybody is created in God's image and gave dignity and equality to the people. Another thing, we often read this Old Testament commands about slavery and say, okay, if you beat him like this, you should be given this punishment. If you beat him to death, okay, you should be given this punishment. And sometimes we read it and say, the Bible allowed for that. No, you have to look at it and say, there are other commands. For example, if the command says do not steal, if you steal, for example, in Exodus 22:1, we see if a man steals an ox or a sheep and kills it or sells it, he shall repay 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. This is not saying, okay, go and steal, you just have to repay. That's not the point. This is regulating so that it doesn't happen. So in that culture where slavery is assumed and expected, Bible comes with these rules saying you are now prevented. You cannot mistreat a person who is serving you. It was regulating what was very common in that culture. So in that way, it was counter cultural. The law doesn't necessarily reflect approval of the behavior being regulated. So that is something that we need to understand. It is not supporting, instead it's taking care of a group that was actually under abuse and constant abuse every time. And the reason why slavery was prominent there is when a battle happened and a country lost, what would happen to those people there? They have nowhere to go, so they could come to this country who conquered them. They could serve there, so they could live and move on. So in many situations, it was mostly for economic consideration. So they were serving and they were given that opportunity, so they couldn't repay the debts or whatever in other situations. So that's how it worked there. So we need to understand that Bible was not, the intent was not to support it, but it was to regulate the things that was going on, and that is why those rules were in place. When Paul also talks about slave, when you in 1 Corinthians 7:21, he's actually saying, were you called as a slave, don't let it trouble you, although if you can gain your freedom, do so. So he's saying, if you are a slave, try to gain freedom and live. And we all know his letter to Philemon, where he actually says, treat him as your brother, not as a slave. And we need to understand this is counter-cultural at that time, because the masters never cared for their slave. They only mistreated them. They just used them as their own property. At that time, Paul is bringing in all these commandments. So Paul's idea is, let the gospel transform the community. And that is how he was actually giving all these commandments. So this is not in support of it, but Paul is envisioning a community where slavery, all these relationship changes, everybody loves each other, and you are still working for your master, and the master is actually caring for your servant, and that kind of a relationship, so that the community would be changed through the love of the gospel. And I also read Christians were such a minority that they cannot go out the street and do a protest. Imagine we 5 of us and going and standing there in the street and saying something. Nobody cares. Nothing will change. So Christianity was a minority. They were not even taking root to do a abolition or anything like that, and that was not the goal that Paul was. But what Paul was trying to do is, he's through the gospel giving this in the context of a church and saying how you should behave in the context. And there is no way that he was supporting any kind of slavery system based on color or based on the class, because we know everybody has the same dignity, same value before God. So that is what the Bible has always taught. Now coming back to our portion here, Paul is asking Timothy that the servants should regard their masters worthy of honor, and you have to work sincerely so that the name of God or the teaching is not reviled. This is there common across many passages as well. For the name of Lord, for the Lord's sake, you should be working sincerely, not as an eye pleaser, but please God in what you do. So it's important that we should normally ask, okay, where did this work actually come from? I'm going to talk about a master-servant relationship, and this is actually work. We go and work 5 days a week, then we come back on the weekday and we worship together, we grow together. But where did this concept come from? And some of this passage is related to the work. It may be something new to you, and first time when I was going through this, it was something new to me as well. And I'm using a lot of references from Keller's book called Every Good Endeavor, which is actually connecting work with God's work. It's a great book if you want to spend some time reading as well. But who created work? Who created work in this world? And that starts from Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created. Psalms 19:1, it says, Heavens declare the glory of God, skies proclaim the work of his hands. It's been said as God worked. Now we know that it is through the word, but God doesn't stop there. He is also preserving. He is giving provision for us. He is continuously working. So this is from God. God designed work. And not only that, when God made us, he also gave us a work. And we know in Genesis chapter 2, verse 15, it says, The Lord took the man, put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. This was before the fall. So God did work. He did the first work. He also designed us in such a way that we are designed to work. We are not designed to just sit simply. We are designed to work. And that is good work. It is exciting. And I was also reading in this book that when God created, he created all these things. He created with some potential under everything that was created so the man could go and cultivate. There is fruit and grain, all those things you have to cultivate, do the work, keep it, and that's how you are going to spread into the world. So the work was also part of something that God designed for us. He said this way, work was a part of paradise. I think that speaks a lot about when we approach work, we have to look at it as this is God's work. John 5:17, Jesus says, My Father is always at his work to this very day, and I too am working. You see that work was not seen as something bad. It was before the fall, and it was part of the design. So one of the components in life is work, and that is designed for us to enjoy. Now, there are many people who has the side hustle, right? Either they come back from work and they have this garage full of woodwork. We recently talked to our VP, and he was actually saying, okay, that is something I'm interested in. If you like to talk about wood, come and talk to me. That's my passion. That's what I do. That is what really the attitude and the goal of the work was. You work on something, you're building something for the benefit of the community and spreading his glory, but this is something you're excited about, and that was the ultimate design for the work. So we were designed to be people who are actually working, and this was before the fall, and that is very important for us to understand. Not only that we were designed by God to work, the work also had a purpose. We know that we were created and said, go and multiply and spread, right? We multiply and fill the earth. That means not just fill, just like that. It means you fill the values. You're going to build things. You're going to expand, and you're going to use the wisdom, the skill, the knowledge, everything that God has helped you with or build you with, and you're going to spread this everywhere. So God had a purpose in work, or in other words, this is also a calling that God has. God created you, put you in a certain context so that you will work and work out the purposes that God has for you. You are going to be a blessing to somebody through your vocation, through your work, and that is the calling. Or in other words, fill the earth was not told to the animals. The animals are also multiplying, they are also spreading, but the way the humans are going to do, it has got some intelligence. There is some work. We are building things so we feel differently in God's plan. So through our work, we are serving the world with a God-given ability. And that's what we will see as God's purpose. If you imagine, if you know in chapter 1 when it says the earth was formless and empty, then God works and makes it beautiful. So his work is actually, there is an outcome to make things beautiful. It's the same way God, when we are given a work, our goal is that we will take something, it is formless, it's empty, it has potential. You take it, you're working through it, you're putting all your effort to make something beautiful. And God's plan is that through our work, it is actually fulfilling that purpose of something, making something beautiful or making a blessing to someone else. So that was the goal of the work. But what happened to this work? In Genesis chapter 3, sin enters, and when sin entered the world, it infected this work. It infected the component of work, and work became a toil. And in Genesis 3, chapter verse 17, this is the curse that God is giving Adam. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil, you will eat food from it and all the days of your life. A work which was something beautiful, which was designed for us, which had a specific purpose, now turned into a difficult task, became a toil, and now you have to work through all these with difficulty. So sin infected this good design, and therefore now we have pain, we have conflict, we have envy, we have fatigue, we have frustration. Not everything works in the same way. You want to do something beautiful, you're going together, then there is like conflict and competition and envy and all these issues that comes into work, and this happened because of sin. So what we need to understand from this, that in any work context, please expect frustration. Your work context is not like heaven anymore because of the because of the impact of sin in that work. But that does not mean work is a necessary evil. No, it was designed for something good. Sin came and infected it. Now work has become a place of competition and friction and difficulty. But our goal is that we redeem this. And because of the sin, now how do we choose work? Work was supposed to be a service. It was supposed to be a benefit. I'm doing this for the community, to be beneficial for the community. This is what God wants me to spread. But now, after sin came, how do you choose your profession? We find our self-image in our profession. I want to be engineer because that is what everybody accepts. I want to be a doctor because that's what the society accepts. Or I get more money. So it's all about become my self-image, my money, my security. So now the things have changed. The service aspect has taken a backseat. Now everybody is doing things for themselves. The goal and the reason why you choose and why you work has changed, because now it's infected with a sinful motive and passion. And therefore we choose career for many other reasons than what it was actually for. We see competition because we want to get to the top than thinking it's a service and working together. It happens either because of us or it happens because of the situation we are in. It has become so difficult. We see that even in the Bible. When the fall happened in Genesis chapter 3, you come to Genesis chapter 11, they are starting to build a tower, and what did they say? We want to make a name for ourselves. Right? So it has become more selfish now. We are doing the work, we are doing with more passion, but for what? For ourselves, for me. And that is the goal right now. And that has now impacted every area in the life. So we can expect frustration and conflicts in the workplace. Do not go to work expecting everything will be fine. Because of the sinful thing, there will be troubles, there will be difficulties, and that is how Bible prepares you when you enter or go into this context. Well, what is God's plan? He started a good design for us, work, but now we are in sinful context and it has infected this concept of work. Now what is God doing it? And the gospel is trying to redeem this work. is going to take this work and make it more beautiful and beneficial, and it's going back to the appropriate design. And that is what God is expecting us. Now, with this understanding, now we have to come to these portions where it talks about slaves and masters, and then it would make sense. What is Paul saying? Paul is saying it's difficult, slaves. Your masters may not be the perfect master all the time, but remember that you give respect to them. Here it says, regard their own masters as worthy of all honor. It's all kinds of masters. And this is a very difficult passage that we read today in 1 Peter 18 to 20. It says, slaves, in reverent fear of God, submit yourselves to your masters. Remember, this is a context of persecution. They never had any other choice. They would be part of any slave owners or masters. And Peter is saying, yes, you are persecuted. You are a believer. You are going through this difficulty. And he says, in reverent fear of God, submit yourselves. And now this is the part. Not only to those who are good and considerate, but also to those who are harsh. I sat on this for some days when I first read this. Is this a mistake? And what do you do when we see these verses? We go and see in Greek, is this really harsh? Or is this really unjust? So you could say maybe that's not what Peter meant. But that is exactly what Peter is talking about. You may have an unjust, harsh master, but still you have to serve them. And my question was, Peter, how is this possible? This is going to be very difficult. Because people are after us. They are trying to make me fall, and probably they are troubling me. And here in the context, it's like abuse. And Peter is saying, stay a little while. And even intense, who is the example that Peter is keeping? Jesus. As Jesus went through suffering, you also suffer serving this master. And this is where our understanding of where did work come from, what is the work achieving, and where are we going with this, that would really help. What Jesus is doing, the gospel is doing, is it's trying to redeem the workplace. And whatever work we are doing, make it a blessing to others. And we are going to look at how do we go through this. This is very difficult. What is motivating me to be faithful to a corporate or a boss or a team that does not care for me? Or they may be unjust to you, they are harsh to you. How do I move forward in this? The point here, what Peter is saying is do good and do not do evil in retaliation. They are doing unjust to you, and Peter acknowledges that and says, this, when he says obey or honor, he's saying do not go in retaliation out of your emotions, but expect that there is frustration. This is an unjust world, and you may be in there for a period of time, but honor and expect evil and injustice, but trust God and do good. When we go to Colossians chapter 3, verses 22 to 25, same topic, but here I want to help you with 2 points that may help us to move forward even in the context of unfavorable workplace. Slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything. In everything. Very strong word. And do it not only when their eye is on you and to carry their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord. In reverence for the Lord, obey your masters. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart. Now listen to this. This is the first one. Who are you working for? You are working for the Lord, not for human masters. This is a reality that we need to understand, which may help us to move forward even in the difficult context of work. Who are you serving? I am serving the Lord. Even though I am one of the employee in a corporate, I am doing something for my master. I am obeying the order of my earthly master, but I am actually doing it for the Lord. In other words, Lord cares your work in your vocation, whatever you're doing 5 days a week, Lord cares what you are doing, and He takes into account everything that is being done. We are working for the Lord. Verse 24, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. I thought this was comforting. It is saying, even though your earthly master, your office, your boss did not give you the right remuneration or support or appraisal, there is a reward that God will give you because you've been faithfully doing what God assigned you to do. Our vocation is not just an accident. It is a place where God has kept us to be His faithful witness by doing the duty with sincerity and diligence. My boss doesn't see me. And Paul is saying, yes, that can happen because of the sin. There may be unjust people. There is injustice everywhere. But you can look to the Lord and He is going to reward you. You did a wonderful thing for your team and for your company. Nobody noticed. Nobody gave you a rise or anything last year. But God is going to reward you. And I'm sure God is also going to give you the provision to move forward. So if you trust the Lord and if you know that we are working for the Lord, He will give the reward. See the next word. I think this is very powerful. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. He's making sure that the point is when you work as an engineer, as a doctor, as a nurse, as a businessman, you are not serving someone here only. You are serving the Lord. And how would you serve the Lord? With the same sincerity we have to serve. And look at the other one. Now, what about the injustice that's happening in my company, Lord? Verse 25, anyone who does wrong will be repaid for their wrongs, and there is no favoritism. There is a time that is coming when God will judge them. It may be here, it may be later on. But if God has said, I will take care of it, you don't have to worry about it. We just have to trust God, trust His grace, and ask for more grace and continue. Now, there is a difference. At that time, I don't think the slave had an option to work for another employer. Now we have that option. There is nothing wrong in that. So we should keep trying if it is going to be difficult in one context. But do not retaliate and don't be lazy and do the wrong thing. Continue your work. Be diligent as long as the God provides another way for you. But you are serving the Lord as long as you are being employed by your master, whoever that is. So diligently follow that. And in 1 Timothy it says, do this work and honor them so that the teaching may not be reviled. It's a testimony problem. It's a witness problem. Means you come and worship and everybody knows you're a believer, and the boss comes and see you're slacking in your work. That is a problem to the name of God. You're not being a good witness. And next verse is even more interesting. Verse 2 in 1 Timothy 6, it says, those who have a believing master. Now it's in the same church context. My boss is another believer in the church. So what happened? Oh, he's my friend. He's my brother. He cannot ask me to do work. And they were taking advantage of it. And Paul says, no, that's not how it goes. You have to be sincere. And you cannot compromise on your work. Be diligent and serve. And this is where I think Paul is also saying you have a master and slave in the same church. That is very different, countercultural to that in that culture, and they have the same people. And now Paul is trying to bring that master-slave relationship to a different level than the culture, and that's how he's transforming this. But we have to do good, do sincerely, trust God, and He will give the reward, and He is going to make sure the justice will happen. Now, in this world, we may not see everything being sold, but God has promised, and we trust God. Trust God for the struggle. So what is God's plan about work? It is still the same design that we have. God redeemed us, saved us. Now He is putting us back into this community. Go and be an engineer. Go and be a pilot. Go and be a nurse. Go and be a doctor. Go and be a teacher. But be a good one. because you go there and you're impacting the community and growing. We know Hershey's chocolate. I don't know if you've been to Pennsylvania, the Harrisburg, where they have this campus. He was mentioned in this book, and I looked up when he was going through a difficult time in his business. He actually, when the Great Depression hit, many factories were shut down. What he did is he kept the people employed, even creating construction projects to provide work. So if he had just running business and for profit, he could say, okay, I'm laying off everybody, go and do your work. But what he did is he made sure he was supporting, and he did a lot of housing, schools, and hospital. So he actually raised a community through that business. And that is their vision of, I'm not just running a company so that I can make a lot of money and live and comfortably. He's saying, I'm making this for this community. That is the vision they had. And they didn't have any children. So instead of hoarding that wealth, they actually distributed, and they founded the Milton Hershey School for orphaned and disadvantaged children. I think it is still there. That is one way to do business as well. You can be successful and, look at the financial aspect of it, but you can also be a blessing to the community and also the employers. So being good and spreading the goodness of God. We know some people in good positions in the Bible. Esther, she was a queen, and God used her and saved a whole generation. So that means God put her in that place to make that stand. It may be the same thing with you. Whatever the position it is, God has put you in a position to fulfill God's purpose in that context. Now the only difference is when Esther did that, everyone knows. I'm just an employee in a company and I'm doing the right thing. Nobody appreciates me. I'm not significant at all. Nobody cares about me. And this is where we read that word, who cares? God cares for you. God will reward you. You are doing it for the Lord, and that is our motivation to move forward in this difficult context. Some are CEOs, some are hourly workers, some are in different contexts. It doesn't matter who put you there. God put you there. Serve God through your vocation sincerely. And I was also thinking, God has put us in different jobs or vocation for our provision as well, because we need to take care of our families. In chapter 5, we already read in chapter 5 verse 8, but if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So you have to go and do a work in order to feed your family or run your family. But look at this design that God has. When you go and work, you are designed to work. You are being rewarded for work. You are being supported, and God is with you. So God is using a means of provision for us. At the same time, He is also fulfilling His purpose. So through our work and vocation, God is giving us a provision, and also He is fulfilling His purpose. And that is how we should see what our vocation is. This is also a calling. So we should look at work not as a means to make some money and settle ourselves and be comfortable and be secure for ourselves. You should see the benefit of it, how it's going to bless. I was thinking about something, how some things are very significant in somebody's life. You all know that Josiah wears this cochlear implant. Who invented it? There are a few people who did research. It was in the 20th century. They found this, they tried this, they are in the lab doing all these things. It was a part of their research. So just like any person, what are you doing? I'm doing PhD, right? I'm doing some research. But that research and whatever they did for a long time is a blessing to so many kids who can actually hear the sound. You see that how God is using, these are not believers, but God used them to build all these things to be a blessing. Now, all this sickness and all this is because of the fallenness of the world. But even in the fallenness, God is using this vocation to be a blessing for others. This is the same thing. Some of our jobs are very direct. If you're a nurse or doctor, you can actually see I'm saving somebody's life. But if you are an engineer, whatever profession you are in, you are actually helping somebody do their work, and which in turn becomes a blessing to that country or to that place. So you're all part of a bigger story. The only difference is some of us are identified and respected and honored in the society. Some of us are not. But do not worry about it. God is going to reward you. And God is going to fight for your injustice that is happening. Isn't that enough for us to move forward? If God is with you, if God is encouraging you, God is asking you to work, what else do we need? It is not easy. Our workplace is not like heaven. Oh, I don't want to go back into that hostile, toxic environment anymore. You can pray and try for something else, but until God releases you and gives you another provision, you stay sincere so that everyone will say, I have tried to push that person a lot, but still he is sincere to me. Where does he get this ability? And that is a testimony that God is looking for, and we may be a blessing to someone somewhere, and we don't know that, but God knows that. And that's also another way we have to always ask, what is your calling? Is my calling to fix something in this community? Fix the cars? Fix the sickness? Fix some engineering problem? And when you come to ministry, you are fixing the spiritual life of people. When you are in the outside, you are fixing something else. But we are all doing the work which God has designed in our life. Ephesians 2:10, for we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. We often think good works is social work. Good work is just feeding the poor and going to the soup kitchen and behaving good and growing in sanctification. But the good work also includes the good work that we do in our community through our vocation and our work. Or in other words, Jesus died to redeem our vocation as well, so that we will be witnesses in this world, being a blessing to others. We're going to go do the Lord's table right now. And this is the question that we need to ask. Lord, you redeemed us, you justified us, you paid a big price in order to redeem us back. And we know the next world that is going to come. Do not imagine that we will be sitting in the clouds and singing. No, it's a new world where we will work like the work before the fall. There won't be any competition. There won't be any strife. Everybody is enjoying. You like to do designing, you will be enjoying, I'll do the next design. I'm just excited to do it. This is my passion and I love to do it. And you will enjoy that world. So work is not going away. It is going to be redeemed. And that is why Jesus died, to redeem us and this world.